The September issues are finally here. Today we're taking a trip to the Netherlands with ELLE Monde, getting wet with GQ, and turning up the heat with VOGUE Czechoslovakia. My name is Mako, welcome to the Model Gene, and if you're ready to dissect this month's covers, hit that like button and let's get started on September's Battle of the Covers. Starting off with VOGUE US, we have Blake Lively and Hugh Jackman, shot by Baz Luhrmann in a story inspired by Alfred Hitchcock's film To Catch a Thief. I cannot believe the same Baz, who is responsible for Moulin Rouge, The Great Gatsby, and more recently Elvis, also produced this lackluster cover for the most important issue of Vogue in the year. There are a few things that stick out to me on this cover that immediately cheapen the photograph, and unsurprisingly, they have to do with the retouching. The part of Blake that is closest to the camera, her arm, is just as sharply focused as the back of her hair, meaning there was a deeper depth of field. But in that case, Hugh Jackman should be in better focus. They either composited this photo from two different images, or added a bit of a blur to Hugh, but either way, it makes the photo look cheap. Also, it drives me crazy how they over-retouched her hair on this side. It looks extremely amateur, and how they cut out his hair as well to put the Vogue logo behind him. Nothing in this photo seems modern, relevant to what is going on in popular culture today. This is just so deeply out of touch. There is a solo cover of Blake Lively with more hastily retouched hair, but I will at least applaud the retoucher for not removing the fine lines on her neck, which has become all too common in fashion photography. The fashion story has even worse moments, like this shot that looks like a campaign for Tanqueray Gin with these distracting background characters, or this green screen mess on a Vespa. This is a giant flop from VOGUE US. British Vogue has on their cover, absolutely pathetic. My little sister can attest to the fact that I get very easily scared by horror films, so seeing Jigsaw from the Saw franchise on this Vogue cover is triggering for me. Someone needs to remind Chomonadi that Halloween isn't until the end of October. Vogue France's cover of Vivian Roner by Steven Meisel is significant in the fact that he hasn't shot a cover for the magazine in years, but otherwise is a very safe, very vanilla cover lacking a strong point of view. Her skin is so over-retouched that we are losing geometry in her face, particularly in this lower part of the cheek. I prefer this image from the editorial for the cover. I find the composition of her arms on the chair more interesting than the cover shot they selected. Steven Meisel also shot the covers of Vogue Italia for their September issue. I think the best covers are the ones of Isabella Rossellini, Matty Fall, and Vittoria Ceretti. Overall, the styling doesn't feel very youthful, especially on the covers of Linda and Maria Carla. Meisel used to use his work for Vogue Italia to push boundaries and even cause a bit of controversy, but this is not one of those shoots for him. Of the 4 Vogue Portugal covers for September, the one of Coco Rocha is definitely my favorite. Coco is known for her movement and her body rather than her face, but this is one of her better recent covers. What I find most successful about this image is that there is a very clear intention to create a mood of mystery. Her eyes illuminated behind the shadows of the blinds, her dark hair and lipstick, her body concealed in this oversized coat. This is all intentional and effective. The Daisy Bradford cover is also really fun and a great use of color. The cat is pulling focus. I wouldn't have made that choice, but I think it's fine with the furry co-star. The still life cover is a perfect way to show off this ridiculous shoe, and I like the spilled coffee, giving narrative even with so few elements in the photo. My least favorite cover is by ELLE Nogueira, and I've really struggled connecting to his work for Vogue Portugal. It always feels like an influencer shoot with him, regardless of this beautiful gown. When I see his work, it makes me think of Instagram content. Naomi's cover of Harper's Bazaar US is easily the best photo I've seen from Malick Bodian, but if you cannot take a good picture of a supermodel, you should consider another line of work. I like seeing her smiling on a cover. These pants are fun. I just don't like the shape of her wig here. I would have liked more movement in her body here, but it is not a bad cover. Harper's Bazaar France has a relatively new model on the scene named Leila Etengen for their September cover, shot by David Sims. This photo is a chocolatey delight. I love the warmth in the browns and this deliberately restricted color palette. This is a really great cover for Harper's Bazaar France, and I much prefer this cover than the Vogue France cover by Meisel. I also think it is a very strong statement by Harper's Bazaar that they're giving this opportunity to a young model rather than a reality TV influencer. Of the 3 covers of Harper's Bazaar Italia, my favorite is the double exposure shot of Lulu Tenny shot by Elizaveta Porodina. This is not done very often. Alistair McClellan shot one of the models I scouted for the cover of Vogue using the same method, and it does add an element of mystery and drama to a cover. Do I want to see double exposure covers everywhere? Absolutely not. But once in a while, it breaks up the monotony. Elizaveta uses such a different color palette than most photographers. I think this is a great cover that makes you want to pick up the issue and explore more. Willy Vanderperre's cover is very expected, the all-white background with the same model he has been using for everything for years. I am not fond of this image. The cover by Quentin is boring, but I applaud the makeup artistry. The placement of the black eyeshadow completely changed the structure of her face for a very bold look. Giel is on the cover of Vogue Brazil, and I love this image. The billowing of her dress and hair creates so much dimension and interest in the image, and I love the light shining through the fabric so that her silhouette is revealed beneath. Yes, it is all very washed in gold, not my personal preference, but the shot is strong enough to work like this, or if we had a punchy blue sky and more blues in the vegetation. This is not only one of the strongest Vogue covers this month, the entire editorial lives up to this high standard, like this fantastic green look, or this dark and moody one in the shadows. My only real criticism is that I don't get a sense of strong narrative that threads all the images together, but it is a great showing from Lufré and Giel this month. Vogue Arabia's covers of Claudia Schiffer aren't horrible, but everything is so bright that it makes the images feel like ecom. When you look at the BTS video of the shoot, they have a shot where they show the mood boards, and here you can see how little creativity and innovation went into this shoot. They merely tried to replicate existing images of her, but one big difference from the references is that those images have stronger black tones and shadows in the image, making them feel more editorial than these Vogue Arabia covers. This is the best of the three covers. Despite her one eye being covered, it feels more relaxed and modern. ELLE China, this cover story is better than most Vogues this month. Although I prefer the cover of Evie Harris, there are some absolutely gorgeous shots in this story of both models. There seems to be a lot of inspiration from Richard Avedon in this editorial, like this photo of Xiaohui is clearly inspired by this 1967 shot of Verushka in a dress by Bill Blass. The clothes look great, the models look great, the hair and makeup are on point, really well done from every angle. A round of applause for ELLE China. Let's see this level continue for next month. Vogue Australia's cover of Victoria Beckham has my eye going directly to her nostrils from this angle. There really isn't any much more I can say about the image, not a fan, nothing really to chew on here. Tilda Swinton and Julianne Moore's cover of Vogue ESPAñA is a rather boring, strong flash image, but I will applaud the styling decision that put them in inverted tops. Julianne doesn't have a great expression on her face, Tilda looks a bit silly, and I don't love the placement of her foot in the foreground. Gwendolyn Christie is on the cover of Vogue Czechoslovakia, and this is one of the reasons why I love photographer Szilvester Mako. While the rest of the photographers in the industry are going in one direction, he goes the other, and rather than referencing another photographer's work, this cover is inspired by an illustration from a German children's book from 1845. Yes, the photo is a bit weird, but I much prefer something like this than a boring studio shoot with a gray background. I never like when a landscape-oriented image is used for portrait cover like Szilvester's second cover, but I do like the image, and Gwendolyn looks about 8 feet tall. The third cover of Pablo Size is very annoying to me, this sloppy look with the Eiffel Tower in the background, not a winner for a September issue for Vogue Czechoslovakia. This cover of Laura Jane by Renzo Navarro for Vogue Philippines is a beautiful portrait. The bounty of hair, the jewelry, the makeup, really lovely. But if I was doing the retouching, I would have less green in the skin in favor for more red tones and have the hair be darker, but that is merely a personal preference. Vogue Philippines does a much better job than a lot of the other magazines by making content that is relevant to their own people, rather than trying to slap a mainstream Western celebrity on their cover. Doutzen, your favorite Dutch model turned conspiracy theorist, is on the cover of Vogue Netherlands, shot by Lachlan Bailey. And whatever you want to say about her, you can't deny she is beautiful. I wish we had a little bit more of her eyes showing, but otherwise, it is a much better cover than Vogue Netherlands has been known to publish. I'm not a fan of accessory-driven styling. It is a very Prada gimmick to have one item that gets saturated across editorials rather than exquisite garments. Hat aside, I like the color grading and the mood of this cover. Le Monde has their September issue dedicated to the Netherlands, and I counted 21 covers, but maybe there are more. The studio shots are unnecessary. I think an issue dedicated to a country should highlight unique places, so my preference is for the outdoor covers. The beach shots are nice. This hat on Oriana is annoying, but the highlights for me are these two group shots, in particular this one. I love the black and white suits, the movement in the hair of Rihanna and Felicia. Iman looks so cool as well. Plus, we feature the unique elements of Dutch architecture in the top right corner, and the bicycles, which are a staple of any Dutch city. This might very well be my favorite cover of the month. The other group shot that I love has great casting, besides Parker, one of the most successful male Nepo models, but Iman looks really strong here and is really the focus of the image. The other guys are just there, but she is broadcasting confidence and attitude that makes the cover exciting. L'Officiel has Nicole Kidman, shot by Matthew Brooks for one of their covers, and poor Nikki looks a bit insane here. From this angle, her forehead looks giant, her eyebrows look yanked up to the heavens, her skin looks dull, and her hair color doesn't suit her at all. Now let's compare that to their cover of Sasha Pivovarova by Heather Hazan. Sasha is one of those incredible and unique faces that come through the modeling industry, and I'm as happy to see her now as I did years ago when she started. The one thing I would change here is that I don't like how her left hand looks in comparison to her right hand, where we see her finger spread, but I like the color palette, this sweater, everything. Sasha is also on the cover of Vogue Singapore, and I like this cover even more. Her eyes are so expressive, it really makes for a very hooky cover, which is what I want for a September issue. I normally don't talk much about text on the cover, but here I find it distracting, and it looks like they accidentally left all three options they were choosing from. V Magazine has this AI-generated looking super retouched photo of Gigi Hadid. I like the colors of the makeup, the soft lighting, but we are at a point now where every client is retouching out her nasolabial folds and the heaviness in her lower face so that she looks more like a model. V-Man has a cover of Jonathan Bailey looking like Jack Grealish and a nicer cover of Charles Melton. In Jonathan's cover, I don't like the color grading or lighting in general. I think it could have worked with a very over-the-top saturated Merton Marcus style rather than this. The cover of Charles doesn't really bother me. It's very decent, I just don't need the blazer over the shoulders like that. Brad Pitt and George Clooney cover GQ magazine, shot by Solveig Sundsbo, and here are just a few other examples of men shot in clothes in water, but this cover of GQ is special in that they spelled their names with man milk. Lack of creativity aside, the grooming is nice, it is a clean execution of a unremarkable cover. And that is where today's review is going to end, but for more about the fashion industry, check out the links below. Let me know in the comments what you thought about the covers this month, and be sure to subscribe to find out who comes out on top next month in the Battle of the Covers.